Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Paramahansa. Bhagavad-gita Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace. Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa. Bhagavad-gita Ashtotar to the Sri Srimad Divine Grace. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavindra ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Samveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Marcy, did we start chapter 9? You weren't here on last Wednesday. We were on text 2. Okay, that's where it's marked. All right. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 30th day of December 2019 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in chapter 9, entitled The Most Confidential Knowledge, text 2, page 375. Everyone has a book? Well, Madhavendra was just leafing through the pages, but he seems to be there. Page 375. Radhavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Hidamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartumavyayam Radhavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam Dharmyam Susukam Kartumavyayam Radhavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukam kartamabhyayam. Who's going to chant? Go ahead. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukam kartamabhyayam. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukam kartamabhyayam. Go ahead, Madam. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Hidamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukam kartamabhyayam. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukam kartamabhyayam. Rajavidya Rajaguhyam Pavitram Idamuttamam Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam susukam kartamabhyayam. Do you chant? Not yet? Too late. Okay. Page 375. All right, I'll read the translation, the word by words. You can just read along. Rajavidya, the king of education. Rajaguhyam, the king of confidential knowledge. Pavitram, the purest. Idam, this. Uttamam, transcendental. Pratyaksha, by direct experience. Avagamam, understood. Excuse me. Dharmyam, the principle of religion. Susukam, very happy. Kartam, to execute. Abhyam, everlasting. Jamal, can you make sure this light is on all the way? I think it's dimmed a bit. Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, this knowledge is the king of education, the most secret of all secrets. It is the purest knowledge, and because it gives direct perception of the self by realization, it is the perfection of religion. It is everlasting, and it is joyfully performed. So this is a very long purport. We're going to break it up a little bit in a couple of days. Purport. This chapter of the Bhagavad Gita is called the King of Education because it is the essence of all doctrines and philosophies explained before. Among the principal philosophers in India are Gautama, Kanada, Kapila, Yagyavalkya, Shandilya, and Vaishvanara. And finally there is Vyasadeva, the author of the Vedanta Sutra. So there is no dearth of knowledge in the field of philosophy or transcendental knowledge. Now the Lord says that this 9th chapter is the king of all such knowledge, the essence of all knowledge that can be derived from the study of the Vedas and different kinds of philosophy. It is the most confidential because confidential or transcendental knowledge involves understanding the difference between the soul and the body. And the king of all confidential knowledge culminates in devotional service. Generally, people are not educated in this confidential knowledge. They are educated in external knowledge. As far as ordinary education is concerned, people are involved with so many departments: politics, sociology, physics, chemistry, mathematics, astronomy, engineering, etc. There are so many departments of knowledge all over the world and many huge universities, but there is unfortunately no university or educational institution where the science of the spirit soul is instructed. Yet the soul is the most important part of the body. Without the presence of the soul, the body has no value. Still, people are placing great stress on the bodily necessities of life, not caring for the vital soul. The Bhagavad Gita, especially from the 2nd chapter on, stresses the importance of the soul. In the very beginning, the Lord says that this body is perishable and that the soul is not perishable. Andabanda hime deha nityasyokta sharirinaha. That is a confidential part of knowledge. Simply knowing that the spirit soul is different from this body and that its nature is immutable, indestructible, and eternal. But that gives no positive information about the soul. Sometimes people are under the impression that the soul is different from the body, and that when the body is finished, or one is liberated from the body, the soul remains in a void and becomes impersonal. But actually that is not the fact. How can the soul, which is so active within this body, be inactive after being liberated from the body? If it is always active, if it is eternal, then it is eternally active, and its activities in the spiritual kingdom are the most confidential part of spiritual knowledge. These activities of the spirit soul are therefore indicated here as constituting the king of all knowledge, the most confidential part of all knowledge. This knowledge is the purest form of all activities, as explained in Vedic literature. In the Padma Puran, man's sinful activities have been analyzed and are shown to be the results of sin after sin. Those who are engaged in fruitive activities are entangled in different stages and forms of sinful reactions. For instance, when the seed of a particular tree is sown, the tree does not appear immediately to grow. It takes some time. It is first a small sprouting plant. Then it assumes the form of a tree. Then it flowers and bears fruit. And when it is complete, the flowers and fruits are enjoyed by persons who have sown the seed of the tree. Similarly, a man performs a sinful act, and like a seed, it takes time to fructify. There are different stages. The sinful action may have already stopped within the individual, but the results or the fruit of that sinful action are still to be enjoyed or experienced. There are sins which are still in the form of a seed, and there are others which are already fructified and are giving us fruit, which are enjoying as distress and pain. That's been edited to say experienced as distress and pain. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandjana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So I guess because tomorrow is Big Harinam, there won't be a class tomorrow, so everyone's coming tonight. Is that why there's like a huge crowd? Usually have like 4 or 5 people. No class. It's New Year's Eve. We're going out on Harinam downtown. Anyway, so did I say I was born in the darkness of ignorance? Okay, I just wanted to make that clear. So the Bhagavad Gita has come to enlighten us all, to bring us out of ignorance. This chapter is very important. It, as explained here in this verse and previous verse, it gives us the most confidential knowledge. And it is the king of such, confidential means secret, and it also means essential in this case. And here the different qualities of what this knowledge is, this dharma, this word dharma is in this verse. And what is dharma? This is dharma is something that is essential to our whole philosophy, and actually should be essential to everyone wanting to lead a human life. In one verse in the book called the Hitopadesh, which means instructions for the benefit of mankind, it says, Ahara nidra bhayamaitanangcha samanyameta pashabe samana dharma hitesha madigo vishesha dharma nihina pashabe samana. It means that we share 4 basic functions with the animals. We eat, sleep, mate, and defend against dangers. The animals have their strategy, fight or flight, and we have built up the huge so-called defense departments. And of course we all eat, sleep, and mate. So what makes this different? What is the difference between human life and animal life? And he says dharma. Dharma hitesham adigo vishesha. Without dharma, human life is no better than animal life. It's polished animal life. So what is that dharma? That's very much in concern here in the Bhagavad Gita. We find in chapter 2 where Arjuna changes his whole presentation to Krishna. For those of you who may not be completely familiar, this book is one small 18 chapters in a huge book called the Mahabharata. And the Mahabharata is the central plot in that Mahabharata. It's a history of India, is this war that takes place eventually, a struggle for who's going to rule the world. And the kingdom has been usurped by Duryodhana and his 99 brothers. It really belongs to Yudhishthira and his brothers, who are called the Pandavas. And so Krishna is in the middle of it. He's the protector and also the great friend of all of the Pandavas. And he's arranging for the ascendance of Dharma, of real Dharma in the world. So Arjuna, the whole thing is taking place between these two armies. Arjuna as Krishna, who has taken the role of his charioteer. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has become the servant of his friend, Arjuna. Charioteer is, after all, an employee of the warrior on the chariot. If you have trouble sitting, like, we can get you a chair. You're okay? All right. All right. So Arjuna is saying, I can't fight in this battle. I see my friends on the other side. There's my teacher. He learned the martial arts from Dronacharya, who's on the other side, and grandfather Bhishma, and so many friends and blood relatives. Says, I'd rather go off to the forest and just become a beggar. Because even if I win this battle, I conquer the other side, the kingdom I win will be soaked in the blood of the people who I love. So how am I going to enjoy this kingdom? And then he starts actually quoting the Vedas. His argument is that the Vedas say that if all the men are killed, because there's thousands and millions on each side, and they're all men, and they'll be killed, and then their wives and will be unprotected, and earth will be overrun with unprotected children, and so I'll be the cause of all that. So he has all these arguments. But in the beginning of chapter 2, when Krishna employs him to, he asks him, give up this weakness of heart. It doesn't become you, and get up and fight, Arjuna says, I can't. But then he changes his presentation. And he says, Karpande dosho pahata svabhava prichamitam dharma samuda cheta. That dharmuda samuda cheta word, phrase, means I am bewildered about dharma, about my real duty. In the Vedic culture, and in all real human culture, we should be very concerned about doing the right thing, because it has implications. If you're always doing the wrong thing, as Prabhupada mentions in this purport, meaning sinning against the laws of nature, laws of God, then you're ensuring suffering for yourself and for the world at large. We see that today. People have no idea, what real dharma is, what real religion is, how to live on the earth in a peaceful way and in harmony with nature, and they're destroying the environment. Everyone knows about climate change. It's really climate catastrophe. The earth is becoming unlivable. I've been here 30 years, and in those 30 years, the climate has changed, even in the SanDiego, anyone who's lived here a while. I remember when I first came, I came in July of '89, and then shortly thereafter, the fall came, and the winter. And I noticed that when the fall hit, there were all these birds who were migrating south. They had been up north for the summer, and then they're going south for the winter. And this is like a way station. And suddenly, outside my window, I was living down Reed Avenue, about a mile away, and there were all these birds singing for a few days. They kind of stopped in SanDiego, and then they were departed. And that happened each year. But gradually, there's no more birds. You don't hear them anymore. And then I read recently, like billions of birds have died in North America because the insects are dying. There's an insect apocalypse. The birds feed on them, all kinds of reasons. The birds are being annihilated. So why is that? Because nature is seen as just something to exploit, and something to throw off all of the waste that we produce from this thing. The plastic is floating along in the Pacific, and the fish are eating it, and all kinds of stuff. So this is a sign that there's a tremendous amount of ignorance in how to live in harmony with nature on the earth, which is the way that we're meant to live. So this is one aspect that we see in our own lives here. So Arjuna was very concerned that he didn't know what Dharma was. Dharma samudaya cheta. My consciousness has been bewildered. And so now I'm changing my relation with you, and I'm surrendering to you as a guru, not as a friend. A friend, as Prabhupada said, friends can go on arguing for time, for days and weeks and not come to any conclusion. But Arjuna took that role of a shishya. What is a shishya? Sanskrit is such a perfect language. Shishya comes from the Sanskrit root For every Sanskrit word, there's a root that all the variations are based on. And the word is shush, which means to be controlled or to undergo control. So Shastra is like Bhagavad Gita. Shastra is a sacred book, a revealed Shastra, meaning the word of God or the word of God's representative, pure representatives. So we can agree to hear the Shastra and to adopt the instructions in our own heart. We agree to be controlled by Shastra. Otherwise, we'll be controlled by Shastra. Notice the difference, Shastra and Shastra. Shastra is a weapon, weapons. Nature has so many weapons. And a shishya is a disciple of a guru who you agree that, all right, what you say, I'll obey. I'm not going to argue with you, So then Krishna changes his tune, and he starts giving them the real instructions of Bhagavad Gita. And he gets on Arjuna's case. He says, you've been speaking about all these bodily relationships, but wise people don't lament for the body. They know the important element is the soul, which is what Prabhupada is emphasizing at this beginning. And so he goes from there. So Dharma is explained throughout the literatures. Krishna says in the 4th chapter that when there's discrepancy in Dharma, that's when I advent myself. I manifest myself on the earth. Yada yadahi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutana dharmasya tadatmanam sujamyaham. Why is Krishna, God, concerned that we practice Dharma here? Because we're all his children. He claims us as his children. We are spirit soul. He's the Supreme Spirit. We are all part and parcel of Krishna. And so he's concerned that we're suffering in ignorance. Adharma, or irreligion, is a result of ignorance. So he comes in order to teach and in order to wipe out those, nobody's killed. The soul is eternal. But to help the religious become ascendant. He explains that in the 4th chapter. So, here it says, Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam. The word dharma is here. So this is the king of knowledge, very confidential, purifying. He's speaking about devotional service, the knowledge of devotional service. Pratyakshaavagamam dharmyam. One, you can directly perceive it in your life. When you practice Krishna consciousness, which is explained in the Srimad Bhagavatam as the supreme dharma, because it evokes our original state of love for God. That's what's most needed. We've misdirected our attraction, our attention, our energies to the material energy, completely forgetting about the transcendence, what lies beyond this material curtain, which we can't perceive because our eyes have been dulled. So we need to develop the pure senses to perceive ourselves as spirit. And so this allows you to perceive that. That's why pratyaksha means directly perceived. Susukam kartam aviyam. It is joyfully performed, and it is everlasting. In other words, it brings us to the point of our actual eternal function. So that's what this verse is very, very important introductory verses. The first and the second verse. The first verse of the chapter, Krishna said that, my dear Arjun, because you're never envious of me, I shall impart to you this most confidential knowledge and realization, knowing which you shall be relieved of the miseries of material existence. So, that's quite a promise, to be relieved of the miseries of material existence. No, you can't have a system of knowledge that does that unless it brings us out of the realm of matter. Meaning that, if we just think a little bit, I'm now 72 years old. I know I'm not going to live forever. Already the call is there, I'm trying to take care of myself. But still, it's coming to an end, right? And Darshan here can tell you his stories. His body has taken so many hits, right? Near-death experiences, right? So obviously, none of us are immortal. We're all headed toward the end of this life. But we're encouraged at the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita, as Krishna, as Prabhupada mentions here, this andabandha hime deha nitya sokta shrideha. I put that into a little couplet. Everybody dies, nobody dies. Andabandha hime deha nitya sokta shrideha. It's from the Bhagavad Gita. So every body dies. There's no question, but nobody dies. In other words, isn't that good news? That you're not going to die? you know. Now, how to realize that? But we'll be seeming to die. It will be as if we die if we don't rise up to the transcendental platform. What is the difference between the death of a devotee and now, sadly, you know, my contemporaries, there's a growing obituary, you know. I mean, we're starting to reach that age when some of us are leaving the body. But it's not the same experience. Over the years, I've been at the bedside of at least a half a dozen or more devotees who've left their body. Sometimes they ask, Dravida, come and chant, you know, so I chanted. And that's the whole idea, is that you try to have, you're surrounded by devotees chanting Hare Krishna, reminding you of Krishna when you leave this body, and hopefully you'll be thinking of Krishna. There's all of the other confusion that goes on when the body shuts down. And you go back to guided. And you won't have to come back again to suffer birth, old age, and disease in another body. That's the basic aspiration. It should be of every human being. The lower animals and things, they're also souls, but they can't think of these things. But human beings can actually have the chance to contemplate these ultimate purposes. That's why in the 11th canto of the Bhagavad, of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Lord Krishna has one verse. He has several verses of this theme, and he says, "Labdva sudurlamabidham bahusam bhavante, manusham artadam anityam apiha dhira, turnam yate danapate nunamitryavat nikshayasaya vishayakala sarvataksya." He says, my dear human being, you've attained this form after many, many births. Sudurlamabidham bahusam bhavante. It's difficult to attain. It's rare. Sudurlamabidham. Bahusambhavante, many, many births. Manusham, you can hear the relationship, human form. Artadam, it is the only form of life which can give you the final arta. Arta means the thing of value. Oftentimes it just means money, the thing which everyone values. But your sva-arta, it's called svarta, means the goal of the soul, if you will. Your actual goal in life, what you really should strive for. And only in human life can you strive for that, make progress. And the great thing is, whatever progress you make is not lost. In other words, the spirit, it stays with you. You start from that percentage next life. But anything material you get, I'm assuming nobody here is a billionaire. Am I right? But in other words, even those multi-billionaires, which is really kind of obscene, one guy, I don't even want to name names, just this year, his billions increased by 27, I read. 27 billion, the founder of Facebook, that guy, I mean, that's obscene. Why should anyone have that much money under his control? You can feed so many people, build temples, whatever, But anyway, however much he has, he's not going to take it with him, And so it's all lost. Whatever you do materially in this life is lost with the body. But what you are able to achieve spiritually stays with you because your spirit is eternal. So the verse goes on. It says, "Manusham artadam." You've attained this human form of life, which facilitates your progress toward the ultimate goal of life. But it's anityam. It's temporary, like every form of life. So one has to be dhira. Prabhupada mentions that. Is it in this purport or I think the one this morning that we read? Dhira means thoughtful. One needs to contemplate, not just to be running, following the senses here and there, but actually think about the meaning of life philosophically. So if you're really dhira and think about it, then you follow this next instruction. Turnam yateta napatena namityavat. As long as you're still alive, turnam, you should struggle quickly, without wasting time. Don't waste any time. Turna means immediately. Yateta, strive for the ultimate goal. Because in all the other lives we've been in, thousands of millions of forms, which we've all forgotten by Krishna's mercy, imagine if you could remember all those forms. We've forgotten them, but they're there in the background. We've experienced all varieties of sense gratification. We've all done that, been there, eaten so many things, had so many mates, done so many things. Won millions of dollars, lost millions of dollars, And what's it gotten us? Another birth to serve, So he's saying, strive for the ultimate good. Nikshayasa. This word shreyas comes up in Arjun's verse. Yak shreyaksya nishchitam bruhitanme. Oh Krishna, please explain to me how I can actually achieve my ultimate good, because I'm confused about it. I'm paralyzed here. I don't know what I'm doing. You know, that admission, that recognition, if you will, that I really need a source of absolute knowledge, that I can't figure it out on my own. And other people who are in my same situation, I'm not going to get the knowledge from them. I need the word, the transcendental instruction of the absolute personality of God, coming directly or through a transparent medium which doesn't distort the message but actually makes it accessible. Like Prabhupada's books. They're in English. There's a lot of Sanskrit and Bengali, but he translated them in English, made it accessible to us. And through the English, they've been translated into all languages of the world. If it had stayed in the Sanskrit and Bengali, then where would we be? So he made it accessible. But the message is coming through loud and clear. So, Jnanam Vijnana Sahitam. This is the previous verse. There's knowledge, but there's also realized knowledge. The difference between Jnana and Vijnana. Jnana means I'm aware. You know, Jnana means I'm aware. There's a place called Beijing in China. I read all about it in Wikipedia, so I actually even saw a documentary on it. Yeah. Vijnana means I go there. You know, I get the feel of what the city is. I understand the pollution, you know, all the things that are going on. In other words, to actually directly experience it. That's, in the second verse, he calls it pratyakshavagaman, means direct perception. To directly perceive God in your life, you know, which is revealed knowledge, that's something that, you know, is not cheap. But this process of devotional service, the king of knowledge, and most confidential, happily performed, gives us an opportunity to do that. And that's what Srila Prabhupada is presenting here in this purport. So let's go through a few of these paragraphs and things. He mentioned different philosophers. This is something that Prabhupada explained when he came, you know, how the whole movement we have is based on the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Bhagavatam especially is said to be the ripened fruit, the essence of all the Vedic knowledge. The Bhagavad Gita is like an ABC. We need the ABCs, you know, and it's very important understanding. But the Prabhupada say the Srimad Bhagavatam begins with the Bhagavad Gita, leaves off. Bhagavad Gita ends with surrender to Krishna. Sarva dharma parityajya. Now it's interesting, we talk about dharma. So he says, give up all other dharmas, just do this one thing, surrender to me. I'll protect you from all sin-free actions, do not fear. That's all it takes. And what's the previous verse? He repeats the end verse of the last verse of this chapter. Nanmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. So I put those last two verses, 65, 66, into a little poem, the essence of the whole Gita. So here it is. Here's the most confidential knowledge. Krishna says, just think of me, become devoted, worship me and bow down low. You come to me, O friend, I promise you this boon I shall bestow. Give up all other dharmas and surrender only unto me. Your sins I'll nullify, O Arjun. From anxiety be free. See? If we can just follow those two verses, it would be successful. So, there's so many other philosophers, just like in the West, there are all kinds of philosophers. I used to read them. You know, Prabhupada, there's a book we put out called Beyond Illusion and Doubt, where Prabhupada had the essence of different philosophers presented to him by Shyama-Sundar and Hayagriva Prabhu. And, you know, he deals with Marx and Freud and Sartre and Plato and the different philosophies. And he speaks on them. It's interesting. So here, the India, Gautama, Kanada, Kapila, Yajnavalkya. Finally, there's Vyasadeva. So Vyasadeva wrote all these other Puranas, wrote the Vedanta Sutra, still wasn't satisfied. And then he wrote, under the instruction of his guru, who was whom? Who was the guru of Vyasadeva? You remember? Oh, okay. Narada Muni, right. You got that. I'm glad I asked you. So what did he write? Srimad Bhagavatam, which is Nigamakalpatado Galitam Palam Shukamakaramita Dravasammitam. So the Vedic writings are like a tree, you know, all of the trees with so many fruits. So this is called Nigama. And Kalpatado, they're a desire tree. You want to learn about medicine? There's Ayurveda. You want to learn about fighting, there's Dhanurveda. You want to learn about the astrology, there's Jyotirveda, right? Yeah, she's an acolyte. Sometimes you don't see her for a few days. She went to a conference of astrologers. And every time she goes, they do a reading and it says you should go back to Bhagavad Gita class and let me see her. Marcy's been coming for years. So there's all this, it's like a desire tree you can get. But the ripened fruit of the essence of the whole thing is the Bhagavatam. The Galidam Palam is the ripened fruit, which is like a think of a ripe mango. If you had a really ripe mango, so much so that you cut it and you practically have to drink it, that's the Bhagavatam. That's what it says, Pibata Bhagavatam, drink this Bhagavatam, right? Oh wise souls, oh best of the souls on the earth, and Aliyam. I figured out what this Aliyam, I never could figure out Aliyam. Aliyam is, Aliyah is like a Rasam Aliyam. Aliyam means an abode, like Dukkha Aliyam. This world is a Dukkha Aliyam, is it, I couldn't figure it out. So my job is to go through the books and, see if there's any mistakes, that's part of it. So realize the mistake here was that there's a hyphen after the A. There's a word in Sanskrit that's just A. That's like in English we have the word A. In Sanskrit means up to, just like with Brahma Bhuvana Loka, up to Brahma Loka. A with a hyphen, Brahma Loka. So Aliyam, it made perfect sense. Up to liberation and beyond. In other words, this book doesn't take you to liberation. It takes you to Goloka Vrindavan, where you're beyond liberation, which is the pastimes of Krishna. So that's what the Bhagavatam is, and this Bhagavad Gita prepares us for that. So all these philosophers, it culminates in Vyasadev's writing the Vedanta Sutra, and the Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary, gives us the essence of the Vedanta Sutra. Vedanta means the end or culmination of knowledge. And the end of culmination of all knowledge is bhakti. And that's why Prabhupada's name is Bhaktivedanta. He's one who recognized that all the knowledge that we can get in this world culminates in bhakti, or devotional service to Krishna. And Prabhupada talks about that. They're not educated in confidential knowledge. What is the soul? What is the body? How can we achieve liberation? What's the goal of life? Who is God? Where did everything come from? Unless we come to even ask these questions, we're not really human beings yet. Prabhupada says in the purport, I think to the first verse of Bhagavatam, it's natural that one looks up into the sky and sees the stars, right? As a child, I had the opportunity to go out and then where did all this come from? It's so vast, What am I doing here? Does it have any meaning, But those questions are not just for children or adolescents, they're for all of us. When you stop asking them, it's just as though, how can I do this? How can I live in this world? You've lost the train. So they're not educated in this knowledge, and give very great stress on the bodily necessities of life. So there's a way of living in this world. Obviously, we need to keep body and soul together, but our prime focus or goal should be inquiring into where do we come from? Where did everything come from? Just like the Vedanta Sutra begins. This one we should know. We can all memorize this sutra. It's only like 4 syllables. Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Let's take it apart. It is ata. It means now, therefore, Brahma Jigyasa. Jigyasa means inquiry or inquire. Now, in the human form of life, how do you start? When do you start a book with the word therefore? Right? Only when it's a book that comes after a whole lot of other books, right? And that's the way Vedanta means, the end of all knowledge. It says, now therefore, having been given this precious human life with this precious human brain, you should inquire into Brahman. What is the Brahman? That's the next sutra. Janmadhyasya yataha, which are the first words of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's a natural. So what does that mean? Janma, we know, means birth, right? Janmashtami, right? So Adi means etc. There's Janmadi. Adi means what comes after birth? Maintenance, and finally death. So birth and maintenance and then dissolution. There's a personality who's doing all of that for the whole universe. Where did everything come from? How did we all get here? And who's maintaining it as we live here? And where is it all going to end up? That's what the Brahman is. Brahman is the source of everything, the sustainer, and the final destroyer. And the conclusion in the Vedanta Sutra and the conclusion of Bhagavatam is, it's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It's not some impersonal force. You know, just logically, we're persons, right? Is anyone here not a person? We with form, with activities, with emotions, with likes and dislikes, and all the things that we make up personhood. So how can that which creates us not be a person? The creator, the cause, cannot have anything less than the effect. That's what's logic. You can take anything. This building, what's the cause? It starts out as an idea, right? I mean, the impetus is, let's make some money. That's usually the impetus in the material world. Let's build a building and we'll sell it, you know. So, but somebody have to, okay, then you engage an architect, or, you know, to write the blueprints. Oh, we'll build it this way. And then, so it's just in those days, you know, in the 50s or whatever, there's this awful paper, no computers. So there's a blueprint. We know what a blueprint is, you know. So that's one cause, right? Is the desire of the investor, and then the guy who figures out the building is going to be a warehouse or whatever it was, I think, you know. And then you have the workers, and you have the materials, you have the capitals. All these things are the causes. But the end, the building, can't have anything more than the ingredients that went into it. The idea how it's going to be built. Now, of course, it was transformed when the devotees took it over. You know, there's a wonderful series of photographs. I don't know if you've seen it, of this building. You know, in black and white, many of them, of the devotees working on the sculptures. You know, and actually, the main designer was a lady, Dravida Dasa, Adhikari's wife. Forget her name now. Kirtika. So, but it all, you know, everything you see here was a result of a human being and a human intelligence figuring it out. You know, this painting, you know, Vijendra Kumar and Leela Sar and Debbie got in here and did a nice paint job, you know, and fixed it up. So the point is that it's all a result of intelligence, planning, effort, will, and all of that, which is a trait of a person, of persons. And so all this creation, which is so complicated, so full of interrelated, wonderful things, is a result of the Supreme Person. And trying to have that person revealed to us is the whole purpose of bhakti. So let's see. Okay. I just want to brush through the part that we read. So it's different levels of confidential knowledge. Second chapter, very important lesson on the soul, 20 verses, 211 through 230. Confidential part of knowledge. And then understanding the function of the soul in the material world and in the transcendental world. What are the actual activities of the soul in transcendence? That's a further understanding, which Bhagavad Gita teaches us. And then he goes into an explanation of why we suffer. We suffer because of sin. We perform sin because we're in ignorance. The root cause of all the suffering is ignorance. We don't know. It's just like you come to a country, to a foreign country. Say you go to Australia or you go to India, and people drive on the left side, right, of the road. So if I go there, you know, and I don't, you know, I space out and I start driving on the right side of the road, I'm going to cause an accident or, you know, get arrested or something, right? So out of ignorance or ignoring the law, I suffer. You know, I violate the rules. So the same thing happens, you know, we don't know the laws of karma. I mean, I grew up as an ordinary guy, you know, in the Western world. I had no idea. And, you know, I remember, I like to tell this story. I remember when McDonald's first came on the scene, in about 1960 maybe, or earlier. I used to go bowling every Saturday night. And suddenly on one of the corners near the bowling alley, there's this McDonald's, you know. Oh, great. You know, now before we go bowling or after, I forget if we'll have a, you know, cheeseburger with fries, and this is cool, you know. I didn't think twice about it. Oh, this is a great sin, you know. It's totally ignorant, you know. And it's happening millions of times. What are they up to? Billions. Now it's just billions sold. They don't even, you know, 30 billion, 40 billion, you know. So what is the implication of that? Now I know. I wouldn't even, there's no even thought of getting a cheeseburger or anything like that. But I mean, it's just terrific on all level. It destroys the planet. It torments the poor animals. It ensures disease in yourself. It's sinful on every level. It's horrible. But millions of people, they don't think twice about it. So that's what material life is. You just got going through, not really knowing the implications of your activity. But once you learn about the law of karma and how we're related to every living being, and they're all children of God, and we should feel compassion and care for everything. Like you walk around here during the summertime and you keep the doors open and the bugs get on the floor, coming off the garden. You say, watch out, Bhakta Zach, don't step on the, let me take him out. Boom, put him out of the garden. The poor living being, Whereas before, who cares, So that's the cycle of performing sin, suffering due to ignorance. That has to be broken, and that comes through knowledge. We know, and that our actual position and our relationship with all other living beings, then we can avoid that. So Prabhupada talks about that. So just like you have a stock, different stages at which the sin fructifies. And like right now, it's just like a disease. You may contract a disease, but nothing happens for a while, right? But then all of a sudden you come down with the flu, meaning that it manifests, right? But it was percolating in there, right, the germs. So the same thing is with the sin. You perform it and nothing happens. I ate so many cheeseburgers, nothing happened. And it would have happened. Hopefully I'm free of that reaction. But it gradually, happens. And meanwhile, you're performing new sins and planting new seeds and like that. So Krishna consciousness, that's the first benefit. As soon as you chant Hare Krishna one time, let's just do it, just for old time's sake. Hare Krishna. Cool. See? You just eradicated all your sinful reactions. One time. That's how merciful Krishna is. Yeah. What is that verse? Madhura Madhura Medan Mangalam Mangalanam Sakala Nigama Valali Satpalam Chitswarupam Sakadabi Padigitam Shraddaya Helayava Bhagavadanadamatram Tarayet Krishna Nama. Of sweet things, it's the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of all the Vedic writings, it's the transcendental fruit, the very form of spirit, unalloyed and absolute. One uttered even once with faith, or uttered once with none, from birth and death it surely will deliver anyone. And in the end it brings pure love for Krishna, life's true aim. So cast away all doubt and chant Shri Krishna's holy name. So that's the potency of Krishna's holy name. Just like causeless mercy, especially for this age. Kala dosha nide rajan. This whole era of Kali Yuga is an ocean of faults, but there's one very special quality. Just by chanting Krishna's name, you can get out of this age and get out of this life and go back to God and achieve all benefits. So we should take advantage of it. But we should understand how this whole process of action-reaction works. That's part of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, and that's as far as we got in the purport. Any comments or questions? We have a few minutes with this vast crowd. Yeah, as the official mic. Oh, we have Taylor has a question.
Is it possible to live in Krishna's pure world in this body now?
Well, there's two answers to that. In one sense, Krishna's world is beyond, it's not material, it's purely spiritual. So we have to leave the body to go there. But in another understanding, it's all a state of consciousness, meaning that the great souls who are fully Krishna conscious, who are experiencing their relation to Krishna at every moment within their heart, as well as working outside, they're in the spiritual world while staying here. Prabhupada would say, I'm actually still in Vrindavan. Even though I left physically, his heart is there, his soul is there. Part of him is always thinking of the activities of Krishna there in his own, So even he's sitting in 26 Second Avenue when he said this. I used to go down that street. I used to drive it, It's a big traffic street, 2nd Avenue, a lot of traffic, stopping, going, stop. You can hear it outside the door. So he says, yes, there's this river, of cars coming in, but I'm thinking I'm on the bank of the river Yamuna. He's feeling. But so you can experience your spiritual identity, and you can experience this world as Krishna's world. This is part of the teachings that we learned in the 7th chapter, that all these energies, the solid matter, which we're familiar with, the liquids, the water, the big ocean out here, the air, the fire and the electricity, these are Krishna's energies. And if we remember that, then we can remember Krishna when we experience them. That's what it is. Rasoham apsukandeya. I am the taste of water. So we drink water every day. If we remember that verse, we'll remember Krishna, right? You see the sun and light of the sun and moon, where you see this light of the sun and moon, we'll remember Krishna. Now, you will forget that if you're trying to enjoy and exploit the energies of Krishna. So the key is to organize your life in such a way that you're using the things in the world that are appropriate in the service of Krishna. Just like, again, this building. It was a warehouse, it was a movie theater or something. And then we turned it into a temple, and now it's part of Krishna's paraphernalia. That's why we encourage people, please don't lean against the wall, because it's a manifestation of Balaram, you know? And then I always think, well, yeah, but we're walking on the floor. Yeah, because you have to walk on the floor. So Balaram is so merciful, he lets us work, you know, on its expansion. But we don't have to lean against the wall, so as a matter of respect. So the idea is that everything, our whole bodies, this is a beautiful verse, 87th chapter, 10th canto. Twadanupatam kulai minamap sarit priyavar chadatitatun maket vihite priyatmanicha nabadadamandaho asadopasanaya mahano yadunushayabhrame urubaye kusharire bhatah. I memorized a bunch of these because I'm really into the jazz, you know. But I forgot all the others. This is the only one I remember. So it's a great verse. This is the personified Vedas praying to Mahavishnu before the creation. You know, and wonderful philosophy, right in the middle of the 10th canto, 87, near the end. And so the personified Veda is saying, a human form of body is perfectly suited for serving you. And when one uses his body to serve you, then the body becomes very dear to him and becomes like an object of paraphernalia, you know, for service. And everything is in tune, you know, you're advising from within the heart and everything. But alas, nabadadamandaho, those who don't take their pleasure in serving you, but instead worship the impermanent, asarupasanayat atmahano, is a virtual suicide for the soul. You know, you can't kill the soul, but you can postpone, you know. Atmahano. And what's the result? Yadunushaya brahme, they can wander throughout this material world, taking on kusharira, difficult, you know, bodies, lower bodies, trying, you know, and suffering like anything in this world. Alas, he says at the end. So that's our choice. The body, we have to take care of the body in this world, but you can do it in such a way that enhances our Krishna consciousness. And we undergo some austerities for purification. Rishabdev says, you know. I made a little verse based on the famous verse that some of us know. Don't waste this precious human life, dear friend, by working hard for hoggish happiness. Through bhakti yoga, worldly life transcend and learn to taste divine love's endless bliss. That's the choice we have. Take on a little austerity. You know, I know it's an austerity, sit on the floor, you know, and listen to me spout away. You know, that's austerity. But you could be doing so many other things and getting yourself entangled in the material world. At least here you're able to hear Prabhupada's wonderful words. Okay, it's time for Arti. Thank you for your attention and for showing up. This has been a wonderful New Year's End, or Year's End crowd that we've got here. Normally we have 4 or 5, that's a big crowd now. I don't even want to count, it's in the hundreds, relatively speaking. So we'll resume on Wednesday, the New Year. It's New Year's Eve. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.